Today we're going to talk about the compromises that were necessary in order to get the Constitution passed. What we want to be able to do here is if we're able to describe the compromises and why the compromises happened, we're going to really have an easy time explaining why the government today is designed the way that it is. So we're mostly focusing on these compromises made in the 1780s, and we're going to see how they impact government and politics here in the 2020s. Let's start with why compromise is necessary at all. You guys know Article 7. Article 7 says that 3/4 of the states have to agree to ratify the Constitution. So we got to find something that 9 of the 13 states are going to agree with. Most of the issues we're going to look at today are going to split the states into pretty much 2 even groups. For example, first thing we're going to look at is how many votes in Congress. Every state is either a big state or a small state. So we've got 2 pretty even groups there, and we've got to find solutions that 3/4 of the states are going to be able to agree on. If we can't find those solutions where there's some compromise, then we're going to be stuck with the Articles of Confederation. And we talked previously about how that was a disaster, and it's making it impossible to solve even basic problems. We've got 3 main compromises we're going to go through today. First issue we're going to deal with is representation. So we're going to end up talking about the Connecticut Compromise, big and small states. We're going to have to deal with how to count people that are enslaved. And so that's going to lead us to another compromise, the most disgusting part of the United States Constitution, the 3/5 compromise. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about why Washington, D.C. itself exists. So there is a big war debt compromise that takes place. Our first big compromise is probably going to be a review of some stuff that you guys remember from United States history class. But we've got to deal with how to create a legislative branch that's going to be fair to states of different sizes. So if we're going to create a legislative branch, how are we going to figure out what the states do to share power? So we're going to be talking about representation. I need to make sure that you guys understand when we say representation, we mean how many votes does each state get? That's what we're focusing on today. We might be talking later about representation of groups or things like that, but how many votes will each state get? And so that gives us the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan, things I know that you guys have dealt with before. So the first plan comes from Virginia. Virginia's the biggest state. And so James Madison is creating this plan here. And as a representative of Virginia, what he wants is for bigger states to have more power. So in this case, the Virginia plan would say that the states get votes based on the size of their population. Bigger states would have more votes than smaller states because that's where the people are. This would create a 2-house legislature. One house would be picked by the people, the other house would be picked by the states, but there would be those would be based on the proportion of the population in both houses here. And so this makes the big states happy. Probably not super important, but this would have also allowed that legislature to pick the president. And so this would have set up a parliamentary government here in the United States, just like what they had dealt with in the United Kingdom. So the Virginia plan is going to upset smaller states. They're going to lose power. And so we also have the New Jersey plan. Now, the New Jersey plan is not really a plan. The New Jersey plan is just saying, keep Congress the way that it is under the Articles of Confederation. So what we have there is we have the seats or the votes distributed equally among all the states. This would create a unicameral legislature, so just one house, and in that house, each state got 1 vote. That's the exact same way they were doing things under the Articles of Confederation. But this is the thing that's going to keep smaller states, in this case, New Jersey is one of those, and this will make the smaller states happy. Small states can't really advocate we should have more votes than big states, so the best they can do is they can argue that all states should have the same amount of votes. So we got to get to 3/4 agreement here. If you say the Virginia plan, the small states will vote against it. If you say the New Jersey plan, the big states will vote against it. Along comes the Connecticut Compromise. This is going to say, let's use a little bit of both. So we bring in the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan here. The Virginia plan side of things ends up becoming the House of Representatives. This is the lower house of Congress. And votes in the House of Representatives are distributed among the states based on their population. The smallest states still have 1 representative. The biggest states have very large numbers of representatives. So our biggest states, like California, has 53, Texas has 36, Florida has 27. Tennessee's a pretty big state. We have 9. States with very few people, Alaska, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, those have 1 representative each. This is the House of Representatives. This half of the compromise will satisfy the large states. The other half of the compromise here is let's incorporate the New Jersey plan. So we're going to have a second House of Congress called the Senate. And in the Senate, every state is represented equally. So the state with the least number of people, which is currently Wyoming, and the state with the most people, which is California, they have the exact same power in the Senate. They each get 2 senators. And the senators originally, what was a big deal here, is originally the senators were chosen by the state governments instead of the voters. This also satisfied the people and the states. The House of Representatives would be elected by the people, while the Senate would be elected by the states. Let's talk about the impact of this compromise now. First of all, it allows us to have the Constitution because big and small states could be satisfied with this plan, so the Constitution got ratified. In terms of today's politics, this is going to give a lot of power to very small states. So we have states with very, very small populations. For example, I brought up Wyoming. Wyoming has less people in it than the city of Memphis, just inside the city limits. And Wyoming has equal votes in the Senate as California does. In fact, if we took this in its most extreme version, you can get 51 votes in the Senate that only represent 18% of the United States population. So a very small chunk of the population has the ability to have a majority in the Senate. And the Senate is one of these things that makes it difficult to get a lot of laws passed here in the government today. The other part of this, we're going to talk about Article 5 in a couple days here. But Article 5 includes a clause in there that basically says that the Senate cannot be amended. So this is a promise to the states that they will always have equal representation in at least part of Congress.